got another great opportunity to talk to Dr. Gary Chapman. Many of you know Dr. Chapman by his book, The 5 Love Languages, but we're going to be talking about your newest book, and that is?
The 5 Languages of Apology, How to Apologize Effectively.
Tell me how this book came about.
You know, actually, Dr. Jennifer Thomas, who is a counselor in Winston-Salem, came to me and said, this was a few years ago, she said, I've been using your book, The 5 Love Languages, for years in my counseling couples. It's been so helpful. She said, but I think that people not only have a love language, I think they have an apology language. And I said, what do you mean? She said, I think that what one person considers to be an apology is not what another person considers to be an apology. And as soon as she said it, I resonated. Because they've been in my office for years. And she would say, I would forgive him if he would just apologize. And he would say, I did apologize. And she would say, you didn't apologize. And he would say, I told you I was sorry. And she said, that's not an apology. Mm-hmm. So they've argued for years over whether or not they were apologizing.
Well, how does a husband and wife find out what their apology language is?
Well, we ask thousands of people 2 questions. Number 1, when you apologize, what do you typically say or do? Second question, when someone apologizes to you, what do you want to hear them say or do? So if you answer those 2 questions, you'll pretty well know what you consider to be an apology.
Do you think a lot of married couples leave, I've always considered it, things under the rug, and there's underlying problems that people are not willing to apologize about that maybe start out very small but fester into something that can possibly become a marriage breaker?
I think so. I think what happens is people build walls between the 2 of them. They have an offense, one of them does something, the other's hurt or disappointed, but this person never apologizes because in their mind they didn't do anything wrong. And what I say is, if you have offended the other person, if you have hurt the relationship, it doesn't matter whether it's morally wrong or not. If you want to have a good relationship, you say, you know, honey, I am sorry. Man, it was not my intention to hurt you, but I see I did. And that was very wrong. I mean, I am just sorry. I hope you'll forgive me.
Can this apply to parents and children?
I think so, because let's face it, parents are not perfect. And when parents do something that's not kind and loving to a child, such as yelling at a child or slapping a child out of anger, I think we need to go and apologize and say, look, parents should not treat children that way. What I did was wrong, and I hope you'll forgive me. We're teaching them how to apologize by our model. If we don't ever apologize, they probably will grow up and not apologize.
On a different subject, you travel, in fact, you were in Dallas this past weekend. I believe you were speaking with the Bankers Association.
Yes.
How many weekends a year do you travel and speak and give your seminars?
You know, to be honest, I haven't counted them.
Is that right?
I do 20 seminars a year. That's all-day Saturday events. But then I drop in things like you mentioned, bankers or doctors or other places that I get invited to speak. Sometimes it's educational institutions. So I don't know, to be honest with you, how many times.
Your book, The 5 Love Languages, which I think most people, when they think of Dr. Gary Chapman, that's what they think of. How many books have you sold?
In English, in the States, it has sold over 8 million copies. It's been translated in 49 languages around the world. I don't know how many it's sold in those languages, but it's all over the world.
I can't help but think that that must have a good feeling in your heart to know that people read the book, because there's been a lot of marriages that have been saved because of reading that book.
You know, almost every Saturday when I do a marriage seminar, I'll have a half dozen couples come up and say to me personally, we were that close to divorce, and somebody gave us your book on the 5 love languages. And it was like the lights came on. And it really saved our marriage. It's been very, very encouraging to see the way God has used that book. In fact, I had a group from our church who went to Russia just recently. They came to see me this week, brought me a gift from a lady in Russia who's been teaching the 5 love languages of children to workers in the government who work with children in Russia. And so she sent me a gift saying, thank you for writing the book, The 5 Love Languages of Children.
That's fantastic. Well, let me ask you, if people out there wanted to find out more about the 5 love languages, I'm assuming you've got a website?
5lovelanguages.com.
Well, there you have it. So if you want to find out more information about Dr. Gary Chapman and his ministry, that is not just nationally, but internationally, go to 5lovelanguages.com. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Kyle. Good to be with you.
Likewise.
Thanks.